Uppy, uppy, uppy. It's one funny morning. I'm Dana Blizzard, and it's too early in the morning. This is the dumbest show in the whole world.
From Monday
to Friday. Sometimes on Saturdays.
Why would you say that in front of all these people?
Dean stinks.
You never know what's gonna happen.
That's your Dateline voice?
I don't know.
It wasn't good.
It wasn't.
It's not a chicken leg. This is a chicken leg.
Look at that manhole cover on my face.
Not a bad rendition of me. Hold on.
It's such a small town. So if you're walking, people just be like, "Do you want to ride?" It's like they don't need Uber. They
what?
just have.
What?
They just pull over. They give you a honk, and they're like, "We know your brother. We'll give you a ride to school or whatever."
That's called
our small
murder
town.
in New Jersey.
What's outside your Puerto Rico?
That's Stella! Yeah!
I'm Bethany. This is
Elijah.
and this is Winnie. We spend our mornings every morning watching Dina on the One Funny Morning Show, eating breakfast while Mom and Mommy cooking breakfast. Can you say uppy, uppy, uppy?
Uppy, 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 everyone. Uppy, uppy.
Say, welcome to the One Morning Show
Welcome to the One Morning Show
with Dina Blizzard.
with Dina Blizzard.
Say bye.
Bye.
Oh my gosh, they have won. They've won all the awards. They win everything. They're adorable. Good morning. Good morning. Bethany officially has the cutest babies on the planet. What a beautiful way to start the morning with little kids going uppy, uppy, uppy. I love it. I know, Michelle, it's a great morning. Life and Times of a Texas Mom. How are you? On our YouTube. Good morning, TikTok. How is everybody? I know the cute award of the year goes to Bethany and her kids. I know, Lucy. They're so yummy. You know, it's so crazy. I hope you're watching this morning, Bethany and your beautiful children. You remember that time when your whole thing was like, let's get up and make breakfast. Except it's every day and it never ends for 18 years. And now I'm like, who's making breakfast around here? Like, I don't remember anymore. I'm like, I don't even know how you make eggs. That is so adorable. I know, Melanie, adorable. And now we all, this teacher took the day off, but to chaperone my son and his classmates, so not really a day off. Allie, where are you going? Where are you chaperoning them to? I just want you to know that I loved being the chaperone mom. Loved it. I was like, if there's a trip, sign me up. I will be a chaperone. Loved it. I didn't love all the kids that were necessarily in my group. I remember so in Philly, there's a couple of places you can go. Like if they do trips, it'd be like the Franklin Institute, the Art Museum, whatever. Well, at the Franklin Institute, there is a giant heart that you can walk through. It's very exciting. There's a slide, all 4 chambers of the heart. It's very interesting. And it's always been like a highlight at the Franklin Institute. And all I remember, I don't know which kid, maybe Brooke's class. Now I say I love being the chaperone mom. I do, unless you put a nut job in my group. And if I have the nut job, I have a very different attitude. The whole time I've had 6 kids and one of them just kept taking off, just straight taking off. And I was just like, well, it's like sheep. Like one sheep goes, you got to go find the one sheep. That's what Jesus said. I was like, I got to go find the lost sheep. And I was like, you 5, look out for each other. Just the whole time. Ellen is my pride tattoos from the Pride Parade. I'm just rocking them for a while. So they are not forever, but they are until I take them off. I show every band trip. I loved it. Also went twice a week during school hours to clean equipment and hem marching band uniform. Oh, always had the nut job. Always. Missy, and you know you have the nut job in the group on the class trip when even the teacher will come over to you and they'll be like, "Are you okay?" I'm not okay. And I don't know why you would put this in. She goes, "I'm going to stay with you." I go, "Why don't you start your own group?" You in this nut job. We are now at the point where parents must chaperone 6th, 7th, 8th grade trips. If you can't go, neither can your kids. Wow. That's a commitment. It's me and my job. We're the nut jobs. I think I was the nut job on those trips. I was so quiet when I was younger. You wouldn't even know I was in your group. Yeah. I get the nut jobs on our trips. You're not wrong, Joey. We're like, you know what? So-and-so's acting up. Give him to Joey Joe. Stick him in the back of Joey Joe. It's true. It's true. I lost my own kid in Boston. Well, there it is. As the teacher, I always take the nut shot. The time a little girl threw up on my legs at the do was a little rough. Okay. Bob, I was so quiet when I was a youngin'. Les is like, wait a minute. You guys always stick me with Joey Joe. Am I the nut job? No. So now everybody's like, is that why I'm always hanging out with Joey Joe? Like, Tanya needs to be taken down. Joey's like, I got it. No one's going to want to stand next to you now, Joey Joe. They'll be like, wait a minute. So funny. Field trip in a few weeks, wondering who my nut job will be. It's always hard to divide the class up between the shop. Yeah, Bonnie. And I think they do. I think they try to do their best. Don't put these two nut jobs together. Put one in that group. Put one in that group. And it was a rule file. I'd always have, follow the rules, people. Yeah. You are not a real kinder teacher until you've been pooped on, peed on, and thrown up on. Oh, there you go. So I have never. I probably belong in the nut job group. Yeah. Good time Andrea's volunteering to be with Joey Joe. Allison, these are my pride tattoos from the Pride Parade. And I haven't gotten rid of them. And I kind of dig them. And maybe I'll get a tattoo. Here comes drunk Patty. Rules are made to be broken. That's the voice I use for her. And guess who was the nut job in the group? I'm going to be like, Joey Joe, you see Patty? Head on over. That's so funny. Hey, Bobby, good to have you back. The day my daughter said my shorts are gone at Sesame Street, one of the little boys walked out of the dressing room with them on. My daughter was horrified and cried all the way home. Throw them out, Mom. What do you mean her shorts are gone? They took them off of her? This is a really crazy story. Speaking of that, I just finished watching Eric, the show. I think I talked about it last night too, but in case you didn't hear me, it was a challenging but beautiful show to watch. Yeah. No, Bonnie, I'm out. I always tell the kids that the chaperone complained, they would come to me they would be with the no fun teacher. Yeah. I mean, they were pretty on top of it. If I ever said like, so-and-so is not safe with it, a teacher would swoop in and be like, I was trying to give you a normal life and now I take it away. Yeah. It was funny. It was funny. Kids are just funny. And you remember those days of the field trips, right? And they can be rough, especially in like the grammar school time, right? In the middle school. And you think, this is just such a little kid thing, kids will be kids, whatever. And then you grow up and you have kids and then you become a room mom. And then you realize room moms are also very cliquey. And apparently that doesn't ever end. Of course, I've watched Baby Reindeer Carol. Hard to watch, but very good. Yeah, it was. I wanted to, Kim, it has a beautiful ending. I mean, yeah, you'll be fine. There's two storylines happening. So one is real, and the other one's, I don't want to say too much. Yeah. Did I miss 6 months, or is there a Christmas tree there? Vesper, you tell me. Vesper's like, I'm pretty sure I see a tree. Mm-hmm. Carrie. Uh-huh. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It was strange but interesting. It's probably a good way to describe it. Yes. My younger son's classroom had 5 Homer moms. It's insane. Yeah. Did you know that there was at one point that they were limiting how many Homer moms there could be? Well, then they started making captains. You know what I'm talking about? Like when I was younger, like they would just be like, hey, any mom can come in and volunteer. And then by the time I think Brooke and Jacqueline were in middle school, you know, they would send the thing, hey, sign up if you want to be a homeroom mom for the kids' school. So I signed up for Jacqueline and Brooke because they were in the same school. And they were like, you can only volunteer in one classroom. And I was like, what? They were like, you can only volunteer for one classroom year at a time. I go, but I have 2 kids. I don't understand. Eric is on Netflix. I was like, but what if they need help in the other? She goes, well, they would, the captain, the mom captain would contact you. I was like, the what? They're like, there's a captain. I go, I don't know. We have to create this hierarchy of room moms. They were like, no, she's the captain. Mm-hmm. Yep. I know. And the schools we were in, they were happy if anybody showed up, let alone all of a sudden there were, oh, yay for you, Beth. Right? Mooney, well, that's Mooney said I work full time, so I couldn't volunteer. I feel so sad about it. Well, that's what I mean. I was always very excited to step in. I was like, I'm here for the long haul, so I'll step in. And I found that, you know, a lot of the full-time moms were like, I can't be there, but I can make these cupcakes. I can drop them off to you. I was like, great, whatever you can do. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Aren't you all there doing the same thing? That's what I thought, Bob. But I guess if there's a lot of cooks in the kitchen, then all of a sudden they would start fighting. There was one day they had field day at the school. And it was supposed to be this great day. Everybody gets a color. You're in the green team, that thing, you know, and all the things are outside. And I had volunteered to bring in water and volunteer for the day. Well, that day, Jacqueline got sick. She wasn't going to field day. But I felt bad because I had volunteered to bring stuff. So I said, Jacqueline, I'll be back. I got to go drop this water off at the school. And then, you know, I'll come back. But Brooke was still going to be there. So I come in with my water. We hadn't really lived here very long. I roll up with my water. It's heavy. I have 2 stacks of water that I'm trying to bring in. I walk in and it is full admin, room mom admin happening at the front gate. And there's a line. And I'm like, I just need to drop this water. They're like, you're going to have to get in line. And I was like, okay. So I get in line. Everybody's in a tennis skirt. Why? I don't know. I don't think any of them played tennis. But for some reason, we all wear tennis skirts here. And I was like, you're lucky I got pants on. So I get to the front. And she's like, okay, did you register? What color are you? I go, I don't know what you're saying. I have water that I need to drop off for the 5th grade. She's like, okay, what color are you? I don't. Can I just drop this water off at the 5th grade classroom? She's like, did you register? I go, no. I have this water. She goes, well, if you didn't register, you can't stay. And I was like, okay, what? She goes, you had to register. It was very clearly noted in all your paperwork. And if you didn't register, we just don't have room for you. I go, okay, do you want the water? Because you're going to need the water for those that registered. It was like this whole conversation. So I don't know what she said, but I blew past her tennis skirt. Yeah, exactly. I was like, girl, I'm not even trying to stay. I got to go home to a sick kid. I was like, whatever. Push past her. I go to the 5th grade class. I love the 5th grade teachers. So I go in, I drop the water. They're like, oh my gosh, how's Jacqueline? We feel so bad she couldn't be here. I go, yeah, she'll be fine. She's sad she's not here. I said, but I had to push through a bunch of people, because I don't have the right color on or something. I didn't register. And they're like, who said that to you? I said, the crazy moms at the front door. They said, I'm not allowed on the field because I didn't register properly. I was allowed to bring this water to you, but only if I stayed in the class. It was this whole thing. And they were like, you can go wherever you want. You want to go outside? We'll get you the right color. I go, I don't even know what we're talking about. They were like, tell us who said it. I was like, I'm not going to start a room mom fight right now. She got a tennis skirt on. I don't know if that gives her the edge, but I'm not getting into it. I just need to drop this water off. I got a sick kid at home. But it was the funniest thing. You still remember all of those, room mom fights. And it was super cliquey when my oldest was in elementary. Started to when my middle was there, and the time no one was volunteering. And 2 other moms and I ended up doing all the things for our youngest. Well, that's what I think it is. I feel like there's got to be, listen, if you're in that happy medium where like you found your group and it's like the same moms that are volunteering, but the other moms send stuff in, it's the perfect scenario. Hey, Scott. So it's quite lovely when it works, but I guess it could turn ugly real fast. I don't know, Shakendra. It was the craziest thing. They were like, did you register for yellow? Because if you didn't register for yellow, you couldn't go to field day. Like, I don't even know what words you're saying. I just want to drop the water off. It was so funny. But then it's so crazy because for Christmas, BNC next door, who always loves playing pickleball, she bought me a tennis skirt. I haven't worn it. I don't know where I'm going to go in a tennis skirt. I have a broken leg. It's not a good look. So yeah. Yeah, she had tennis. Maybe there's power in a tennis skirt that I don't know about. Maybe you don't even have to play tennis. You just wear it and all of a sudden you're super powerful. I don't know. I'm not really the Margie. You should see the moms. Oh, Kimberly, good luck. Though I always found the band moms were fun. You're going to have a good time. I find a rich husband. I can stay home. I'll be a room mom real fast. I loved being a room mom. Those were the worst stories, but I had. All right, here's my last room mom story because I just thought it was the funniest thing ever. So we were like in charge of like setting up the desserts, and my girlfriend brought fruit, and she had. You remember those big Tupperware things? It was like a circle, and it had the divider, and then you could put like the dip in the middle. So it had like 4 sections for fruit, and then this dip thing in the middle. And so she's like, why don't you put the fruit into the container with the 4? And I go, okay, yeah. And I said, do you have watermelon, strawberries, and blueberries? She's like, got it. Or it was like something, 2 blue things, I don't know, and 2 red things. Fine. So I put them in and I put it all together. I think it looks great. And I turn around, I go, all right, fruit's ready. And she goes, what did you do? I go, I put the fruit in the container. She's like, Dina, you did strawberry, blueberry, and then raspberry or something. And I go, okay. She goes, you can't go strawberry, blueberry, raspberry. It has to go strawberry, raspberry, blueberry. And I go, what? She goes, you can't put the 2 reds next to each other. It should have been the strawberry, blueberry, strawberry, raspberry. Everybody knows that. And I was like, I don't think we do. I think it looks like fruit and you should put it up. Big fight. She had a full breakdown. And I could not stop laughing. I go, so you're not going to put the fruit out? She goes, I'm not going to put the fruit out wrong. It's just like, okay, kooky pants. We're going to need to have a talk about the OCD happening here right now. That's a lot. And she dumped the whole thing out and started again. And I couldn't. I just raise your hand if you could have put the fruit out as strawberry, raspberry, blueberry. Or does it have to be strawberry, raspberry, blueberry? I know Michelle Mooney, sexy producer Michelle, would not put it out. It would have to be red, blue. She's laughing, but I'm not wrong. She's like, it would never be strawberry, blueberry, raspberry. That's dumb, Dina. Why would you do that? Yeah, I'm constantly, yeah. It would have been all mixed together. Elaine said it would have been dumped into one giant bowl and say, good luck. Find what you want. She can just like, I don't even know what you're saying. That's what I mean. It was so funny. I just loved being in my group of my crazy moms. I know. Shake it up, pour in the tray. Exactly. All right. Well, somebody who knows a lot about being a great mom and how to kind of work through all of the craziness of motherhood, but with humor. I know you know her because she's been around forever. We've all been watching her. I'm so excited to have her on the show today. Let me introduce her properly because there's a lot to say, and then we're going to get to it. So, here we go. Today, you can join me. We are welcoming author, speaker, and comedian Kristina Kuzmic. After immigrating to America from Croatia during the war in her homeland and later facing some more challenges like divorce, single parenting, poverty, mental health challenges, her goal became clear: to be for others what she needed when she was at her lowest. And now with over 1 billion video views, she's providing her audience with encouragement, hope, and humor in a role that she never expected to fill. In 2011, Oprah crowned Christina the winner of Mark Burnett's reality competition, Oprah's Search for the Next TV Star. Since working with Oprah, Christina branched out on her own. She's created videos about juggling life's challenges, encouraging her audience to prioritize their mental health, and she quickly became a viral sensation. I know you've seen her videos. She's also performed at comedy clubs and theaters across the country. She is a sought-after speaker and author of 2 books, Hold On, But Not Hold Still, and I Can Fix This, and Other Lies I've Told Myself While Parenting My Struggling Child. You can catch her tonight at City Winery in Philadelphia. And check all her tour dates are at ChristinaKuzmic.com. I actually think it's tomorrow, isn't it, Michelle? I think it's tomorrow. Well, she can tell us. So please welcome to the show, Kristina Kuzmic.
Hi! How are you? I'm good. I am joining you from a hotel room. So
I love it. You could have just added some magnets. We can be like, this is my house. This is my home. Yes.
Any second now, someone's going to show up with fresh towels.
Any second. So where are you? Are you in Philly now, or are we still Pittsburgh?
No, I'm actually in Cleveland because I performed there last night. And then tonight I'm in Pittsburgh. I'm headed there after the show. And then tomorrow I'm in Philly, and then Boston, and then Minneapolis.
Wow. So busy. How's the tour been going for you?
It's been going well, but it's so different than any other tour I've done because, people know me as the funny mom and blah, blah, blah. And my latest book, I Can Fix This, is about me learning to support my son through some serious mental health struggles. Mm-hmm. And so I'm getting booked in comedy clubs to promote a book that's like super heavy. So it's been interesting. It's been good. It's like a show where you're laugh, but then also you'll feel less alone if you're struggling, if your kid's struggling. Yeah. But I find myself like the book coming out and the show, it hit me in a new way. So I've been going through my own processing, like all this stuff. This
is the first time that her and I have ever spoken. I know I've seen your videos forever, and we've messaged a couple times, but I was so excited to have you on the show. So yeah, there's so much to unpack, and I love everything that you're talking about with your son. I've talked about my own families. We say we're an anxiety family and depression. We talk about it a lot, but my daughter was in like 2nd, 3rd grade when we started our journey. So it's kind of different, but tell me, because I remember when you started talking about your son in social, was it a year ago? Was it 2 years ago when you kind of came out with that video with him?
So can't even remember. I think that was 21, like probably 2.5 years ago. I was never going to talk about it. I have this rule with my family where I won't say anything publicly, nothing, won't even post a picture, nothing, unless I have their full permission. Yeah. And I wasn't even going to ask him, do you want to talk about the fact that you were in a psychiatric hospital and suicidal, So, and then he actually said that what helped him the most throughout his healing journey is hearing from other teens. Yeah. And so he decided to do this video. He's super private. He does not do videos usually. He doesn't even use social media. And he decided to do this sit down with me. We sat down for 2 hours and just had this very frank conversation, cut it into 20 minutes. And I love that before we filmed, I was like, okay, let's talk about what we're going to talk about. And he was like, nope, I don't want to know any questions. I don't want to do any prep. I literally want to sit down and have a conversation with my mom. And I think that's why it ended up being so raw. And then that led to the book deal. And I was never going to do a book without him because this is really, I mean, yes, it's a story about me learning how to support him, but he's the main character in the story, right? So he gave me input through every chapter. And the best part is, I'm so thankful, he wrote the last chapter. So you hear from a mom, and then you hear from the actual teen, how he felt and what mistakes I made and what helped, all of it. So we just sort of put it out there.
And how old is he now?
He's 20. He'll be 21 this summer. but it's been a long journey. He started really struggling when he was 12. And anybody who's had a kid who struggles, like all of a sudden there's progress and you're like, okay, good. We're good. We got past that. And then all of a sudden it's like 15 steps back and you're like, these don't feel like setbacks. This feels like speeding in reverse with fail brakes. So it's just like the ups and downs that I think a lot of people don't realize. You get your kid help and then they're helped. And then all of a sudden 2 weeks later, it's back to like nothing was, they didn't have any therapy or help or anything. So it's a long journey. And I think what I've been hearing, what Luca's been hearing the most since this book came out is just it's unbelievable. During my meet and greets at the shows, I'm not kidding, every single person has a story. And so many people are not talking about it because there's still so much shame attached to it. And it pisses me off to no end. Like it really ticks me off that, mental health is help. Why are we shaming people for it? Why are we being weird about it? Nobody thinks it's weird if somebody mentions that their kid has, whatever, migraines or cancer or whatever.
Or something.
Yes.
Yeah, you'll be like, hey, a lot of dads have high blood pressure. We don't say that's horrible. You shouldn't be treated for that. I saw
or we never say, oh, that man is so weak.
Yeah.
Or having low blood. No. So why are we treating depression or anxiety or anything else like that?
No, I think it's lovely. So I know tons of people know who you are, but for people who don't know, like, how did you even get started in videos? Let's go back a little bit further than that. How did you decide to start doing them?
Sure. So years ago, I divorced my first husband. It was really an awful, painful, dramatic thing. Most divorces are. And I was a single mom with 2 little kids. I didn't want to ask for any child support. I just wanted to leave. And so I ended up broke on food stamps. I was sharing a small room with my kids, sleeping on the floor. I was just a mess and started really believing that my kids deserve better than me. And so went through that whole thing. And eventually, when I got to a better place, I thought, I want to be for others what I needed when I was at my lowest. And so I decided to start making videos that I needed when I was sleeping on the floor and trying to, handle these 2 kids and handle myself, and just everything felt like too much. At the time when I started, and I think you and I maybe started at the same time, I'm not sure, everything on social media was perfect. Everybody was TV also. Everybody was perfect. Life was perfect. And every time I would see a video like that, it would just make me cringe because I thought, when I was struggling, if that's what thank God I didn't have social media back then, but if that's what I saw, it would only make me feel more depressed and more worthless because that's not what my life looks like. And so I just decided to be honest and blunt and didn't ever expect it to turn into a career. It was more like, I'm going to put something into the world that I needed. Yeah. And then it sort of blew up into this thing I wasn't expecting.
And so how many kids do you have? Do you have other
kids?
I have
3. So I have 2 from my first marriage and then 1 with my current husband.
And so Luke is your oldest, right?
Yes. He's the one that's struggling. Yeah.
And does he ever tour with you? Does he ever come with you? And
we've talked about it, but he has such bad anxiety that he's like, I don't know if I could handle it. He's done, some sit downs with me and things like that. But I have not pushed at all. I'm like, here's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
If you want to be a part of it, great. And if not, cool. I'm surprised. I have the book right here. I'm surprised that he even did this because, again, he's so private. But every time I asked, it was just, I write in the acknowledgements of the book how every time I asked him, like, should we write this? Like, should we write that I called the police on you? Should I write that you did this thing? Or because his depression showed up as anger and violence and, abusing drugs and stealing pain pills and all that stuff. And so every time I'd be like, should I write this? He was like, write it, Mom, write it. Because if we're going to write this book, we got to help other people feel less alone. There's a lot happening behind closed doors. So he's very public about his struggles. When he meets somebody, he does not shy away from saying, I was in a psychiatric hospital. He feels no shame about his mental health. He used to, he doesn't. But as much as he's public about that, he's still like, I don't know if I want to be in front of a big crowd of people.
Yeah. I think it's a journey for sure. So it's very funny. So 2 of my kids are doing stand-up now. My kids are 24, 22, and 19. And same thing. I think that there was a time where, there was depression, anxiety. And I was like, there's nothing wrong with you. Like, it's up to you how you want to talk about it. It's up to who you want to tell about it. like especially with the anxiety piece with my daughter. And I was like, listen, you have this and you get to choose how you deal with it, who you are brutally honest with, who you want to just keep boundaries with. I said, there's no wrong or right. And I can't control what the response is when you tell somebody, I have anxiety. She also deals with some learning things, memory things. And I'm like, again, it's up to you how much you want to tell people, because it's hard for her to remember things. So it looks like she's not paying attention. And, so, just trying to teach her how to speak up for herself, how to advocate for herself. But I think it's so great that you talk about how differently anxiety, or for us, anxiety and depression shows up, because for each of my kids, it looks real different. It's for one of them, it's just a complete shutdown, go in their room. For the other one is, I got to keep moving. I got to do something. I have to get my mind busy. I have to paint. I have to run. I have to, but I think that that's one of the most interesting things about anxiety or depression, that we think it looks a certain way. And you're like, it looks real different for everybody.
Yeah. And I wrote in my book how there's an entire chapter on my other kids and also how it affected my marriage. I think that's one thing people don't talk about. When you have a kid who's struggling, it affects everybody, even if it looks great on the outside. I mean, it almost destroyed my marriage. It almost destroyed my other two kids. But I write in the book how, my daughter and my little one, I started really checking in with them because they witnessed a lot of stuff they should never have witnessed with their brother. And they witnessed him, unfortunately, being handcuffed and put into a cop car and driven away. And I kept checking in. I met with a therapist, and what signs should I look for and all that stuff. And everything seemed to be doing okay. And I kept offering a therapist to my daughter. And she was like, no, Mom, I'm totally fine. I'm totally fine. Come to find out, she was really struggling. And when I finally asked her, I said, what happened? Like when she finally admitted it, I said, why didn't you tell me? I've been checking in every day. And she said, Mom, I just didn't want to add more stress. And what I had to learn, and I should have known earlier, but I thought I was doing the right thing by just checking in, is the kids who are labeled good kids. I hate that term, by the way, but the kids who are labeled the good kids, the easy kids, will often take one for the team. Because they have been trained to fit that I'm a good kid box, right? Yeah. And when we parents already have a child whose behavior and struggles are screaming for constant, urgent attention, it's very easy to convince ourselves that the other kids, the easy ones, are doing just fine, right? And so I should have dug in deeper. And when we found out, that she was having a hard time, and again, like you said, her struggles showed up completely differently. She was an overachiever. She got all A's. She never broke rules. She finished her chores. She sort of focused on like, I'm going to control everything in my life being right. But inside she was struggling. And sometimes those kids struggle the most because they're suppressing it. Yeah. And then with my little one, again, he seemed to be eating fine, playing fine, all the signs that we were told to check for. He was 4 years old when things got really bad. And months after like the worst of it, and this whole time we're checking in, one day my husband's like, Bud, you got to clean your room. You got to clean your room. And he's kind of like not listening. And finally my husband says, hey, if you don't clean your room, we're going to have a talk about it. Like I'm being serious right now. And my little one looks at him with his big brown eyes and goes, Daddy, is that when you call the police and they take me away for a very, very, very long time? And it just killed my husband when he told me. I was just bawling. Here, this little tiny boy was holding all this stress in, and we thought we were doing everything to check. So I say this for two reasons. One, parents, don't beat yourself up. Like there's so much we can't control, and there's so much that you can like do the right thing. And, and two, don't think that, everybody else is going to go unscathed, because when a kid is struggling, when one family member is struggling, it's going to affect everybody else.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I think that's so true. And I think for us, because my daughter was diagnosed so young, she was like, had what we talk about is compensation skills. Like she had none. So her deficits at second grade were really obvious. I should eat Oreo. That'll make it better.
Yeah, Oreos always help.
Oreos are like medicine. So she was really obvious. It was obvious that something was going on. And what I learned, especially with the anxiety, the ADD, all of that, was that if you have a child that's super intelligent, can compensate, can kind of make up for those gaps. It took a lot longer for them to be diagnosed. So Dean didn't start struggling until probably the end of high school, early college. And I remember taking him to the pediatrician that I had seen with Brooke for years and years. And she's saying, well, it's the same thing. And I was like, this isn't the same. They're not showing the same way. You know, that was like, he's not doing this. He's not crying all the time. He's not doing this. And she said, you know, it looks real different. Like for him, he leans more towards the depression than the anxiety. She leans more towards anxiety than depression. And I remember, to your point, feeling so guilty because I had done what any mom does. And I am tending to the one that's in a trauma right now, which that trauma lasted years and years and years. And the other two seemed fine. And same thing, checking in, but they were the lead in the play and, you know, in the class this and, you know, representative of that. And so I felt so guilty that it took me so long to get him identified, get him, you know, the therapies he needed or the medicine. And I think that was the one thing that I took away, was that it looks real different. And just because someone's not saying I need help, there are things that you can be looking for, you know, like all of them at some point started pulling away from their friends.
Yeah.
You know, they had like big groups of friends. And then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, it's Friday. You're going to go? No, I'm not going to go. You know, just these kind of small things. And I don't know if you found this as well, but my kids speak openly about it now, you know, whether they're on stage and they're doing stand up and whatever, but they talk about it with their friends, obviously. But a few times, Kristina, they've come over and they've said, can you talk to so-and-so, like one of their friends? I'm like, yeah, sure. What are we talking about? They're like, well, she thinks that she's depressed or she's anxiety and her parents don't believe in it. And it just took my breath. I go, what are you talking? How do you just not believe in it? She's like, she keeps telling them that she's struggling and she wants to get help. And, you know, to your point of the videos that you've made, you know, the parents are just like, you're fine. You know, you just got to get out. You got to do. So it's just, I always really advocate to listen. You know, your kids aren't just kind of being teenagers for no reason. I feel like, you know, spend a lot of time just kind of watching, like, are you acting out of the ordinary? Is this kind of your pattern? And so it just, it's really interesting to me, you know, how differently people, even parents, look at it. I think that's why your book is so great. I think it's really important to give credence to it, because by just, you know, talking about it, I feel like it brought so much of their stress down to just be like, you believe. Yeah. So believing me is half the problem. And once we get to, yes, well, let's talk about it. Then we can talk about what services we can get you and how to talk about it and get you help.
Yeah, I wrote in the book how when Luca started struggling, one of the first mistakes I made is I came from a place of assumption instead of a place of curiosity. And because his struggles showed up right as his teen years started, I thought, I know what this is. This is typical teenage hormones. I got this. I used to work at a high school as an assistant theater director. I spent so much time with teenagers, right? And I really learned that I always have to come from a place of curiosity. And I write in the book how I had to learn to stand in awe of his story. Not what I think his story is, not what I think his story should be, stand in awe of his genuine story. And then the other thing that you said about believing kids is so important. When my son finally answered me honestly, when I asked him, I don't want to say finally, because it's the first time I asked him if he ever thought about hurting himself. And he told me that he was suicidal. Everything inside me wanted to go, no, you don't really want to kill yourself. You don't want to do that. Look at your life. Oh my gosh, we love you so much. So many people love you. You know, there's so much to be grateful for. And what I realized, I'm so glad I just shut up in that moment. Yeah. Because what I realized is when we tell our kids, no, you don't really want to do that. What we're telling them is, no, you don't really feel that. I don't believe you. Yeah. And as much as we want to talk them out of this awful, you know, these awful thoughts they have, I had to just learn to sit with him and go, I believe you. And that must feel so awful. And I want to learn how to support you, because that's what he needed. Yeah. And then the other thing I want to tell you, and I didn't actually, this next part I did not include in the book, but there was a boy, I won't use his name. There was a boy that my son was in a support group with. And my son calls me up and he goes, hey, can so-and-so sleep over? And I said, oh, yeah. And he was like, well, for longer. And I was like, I don't know what that means. And I said, just bring him over. It was late at night. The next morning, I talked to the boy. And he ended up living with us for I can't remember how many months because his parents didn't believe him. They thought he was dramatic. And then when he ended up, and this is like extreme bad parenting. And I don't like to judge parents, you know that, but this is extreme bad parenting. When he ended up in a psychiatric hospital and he was released, they were like, you threw this big fit and people thought you had to be hospitalized. So you're going to have to take care of the medical bill. And they literally handed him the medical bill, the hospital bill. And I just, so anyway, he moves in with us and he lived with us for a while my son was struggling. They were both 17 at the time. And there was this one day where I was in a meeting and I get a text from, I'm on a Zoom meeting. I get a text from him, can you talk? And I was like, I as soon as I finish this meeting, I end up finishing the meeting. I find him talking with my husband and he's just letting everything out. And I sit down and three of us are talking. My husband and I are not giving him advice or anything. He's literally just talking. And then he starts sobbing. And he goes, wow, I didn't realize this is all I needed. I've never had anyone just listen.
Wow.
And it just broke my heart because it's something all of us can offer. That's the thing. We parents just want to fix it, which is why I named this book, I Can Fix This, because I thought that was my job. I got to fix this, which I didn't have control over. We think we need to fix this. We need to find the perfect solution. We have to have the perfect sentence, the perfect answer. And yes, we need to get them all the support possible and be proactive. But at the same time, so often what they need is something we are all capable of. And we're not inadequate at. And it's just to listen and believe.
Yeah.
That's it. Just listen and believe.
It was funny because all this happened with my daughter so young. She was still trying to learn how to communicate. She was still like, I don't know what these feelings are. I don't even know how to tell you. And hers, like I said, came out as anxiety, a lot of crying, a lot of just social anxiety. And so I did what you said. I was like, everything's going to be fine. You know, you just got to just think about things before you say them. You don't want to hurt people's feelings, that whole thing. And she had a real fear. And I don't know if you've noticed this. I feel like you hear a little bit more about it, but she had an overwhelming feeling of throw. She was afraid of throwing up. If she threw up, if she heard somebody threw up, if somebody talked about throwing up, she would be done for 2 days. Like she just couldn't be around it. And so her anxiety would always manifest as like, I can't see, I need glasses, or I have a rash here, and she'd scratch, but there's no rash. Like it would just these like real physical manifestations. And so I would say to her, you're not really sick. This is anxiety. And so I come from a science background. So I would come to her with science. And so I was like, you're not really sick. This is the, and finally one day, Christina, she was like, it really doesn't help me if you say that. And I just, like you said, like I just had to hear it. I was just like, what? She's like, I feel sick. I feel like I'm going to start crying. She's like, I feel like I'm going to.
I get it. I get it.
Anyway, so we had to learn how to talk about it and what she needed or whatever.
Yeah. And what I want to tell parents out there who might be listening to this, I don't want anybody to feel guilty if they've done it. We've all done it because we're all coming from a very good place. We're coming from a place of love. And the reason we tell our kids that is we want to comfort them. You know, you don't see a rash on your daughter. So you're like, you're going to be okay. Yeah. You're not, you know, like we're coming from a good place. And by the way, there's no manual for this. No one's taught us how to do this. I don't even know that there are experts in this particular area because every family, every situation, every kid is completely different. We're all just learning. And I had to keep reminding myself every time I made a mistake, I'm not failing. I'm learning. Okay. All I can do right now is choose to be a humble, open student. That's it.
Yeah.
And if I can choose to be humble and open and apologize when I do wrong and continue to be a student, then I'm not going to beat myself up. I'm not going to feel guilty because I am learning along the way. So, and that's the other thing, like you said with your daughter, I had to learn to, I had to keep telling myself, the only expert of being Luca is Luca. It's like with your daughter, the only expert of being your daughter is your daughter.
Yeah.
And all we can do is, and I think the problem, I don't know if you agree with this, but I think the problem is the way we were raised too. Like our generation was raised where parents know the answer and parents figure it out. And that's that. It's like very simple. You know, kids aren't experts at anything.
Yeah.
What's a kid gonna teach me? So we were raised with this notion that to be a good parent, we have to know how to just make it all good and make it right. And our kids need to listen to us and we need to lead. And what I realized is, no, my son doesn't need me to lead and pull in any direction. He needs me to stand alongside him and go, teach me, please teach me how to support you. And I want you to trust yourself enough to tell me, learn to trust yourself. And so, and even now, I mean, I'm on tour. I'll text my son or I'll call him. And when I'm home, we do this every day. I'll say, how can I best support you today? I ask because I don't know. Even now, after all these years, I don't always know what he needs. But to me, A, it's a way of me learning. And B, it's a way of me telling him, I trust you and I want you to trust yourself. Yeah. And I'm here.
You know, what's funny too is she was super young. And so trying to learn how to speak with her, and we had a language. And after a while, I'd say to her, are you anxiety sick or are you sick? Like, that's the way we had to really start talking about it. I was like, I need to know if I need to get you a doctor or if we need to talk to your therapist. And it was groundbreaking for us to not negate how she was feeling, but to be able to say, in order for me to help you better, I need you to use words that we both understand. And so we had like a whole language. But it's interesting because as my son is 24, and I think like how you help kids that are older is real different, right? It's not an authoritative anymore. Now it is more of like this. And so he's so funny. He's into videos, much like we are. He's a great editor. And so every once in a while, Christina, he'll come home and he'll be like, hey, I made this video. And so I look at it and I know he's great. He's a great editor. He's great on camera. Like, he's great at all this stuff. So in my helpful thing is he'll show it to me and I'm like, this needs to go quicker. This takes too long. You need to cut this. You need to move this over. And I think I'm doing a great job. And he just looks at me, he goes, why can't you just say it was good? And I go, it is good. It's really good. I'm just saying it could be a little better if you were to just tighten this. And he just looked at me and he goes, why don't you look at it like my mom and not as my like supervisor? And you know, my mom was always good. It didn't matter what you did, Christina. My mom's like, you're the best one. Not helpful at all in terms of critiquing her and my grandma. You're the best one. We love you. I was like, this isn't helpful. And I said, okay, then I love it. He goes, well, now I know you're lying. You think it could be better. And so it's very funny. Like, and he would get so mad. And that happened probably 3 times. And I said, we need to, again, come up with a language so that I understand what it is you need. So now anytime he sits me in front of a thing to look at his video, I said, do you want me to look at this as your mom? Or do you want me to look at this as your supervisor? And he'll say, mom. And I go, I love it. He goes, you didn't even watch it. I go, I love it. Whatever it is, I love it. Goes,
that's so funny.
It is. And he goes, all right, now tell me what you're thinking. I go, you still have to fix this open. It's too long. You got to zoom in on the, like, but it was an important thing for us to discuss this expectation, because I think everything he does is great. But as a mom, you're like, and because we do video and in the back of our heads, we're like, this shouldn't. But I need to know, what is it that you need from me right now? Are you looking for your mom or are you looking for a mentor? And it's just a very funny thing as I notice my communication changes with them from when they were little. And like you're saying, like you say, as they're getting older, I need to learn to be a better listener. But I'm Italian, so we look at it differently. I need to just learn to shut up. That's very different. That's because the whole time I'm not thinking be a good listener. I'm thinking shut your mouth and don't say a word no matter what he says. Don't say it.
No, when my kids started becoming teenagers, I realized if I don't shut up, they're going to shut down. Like, that's the formula. It's just going to happen. And what you said about mom versus supervisor, it totally reminds me. And I didn't come up with this concept. I'm sure most people have heard it, where you ask your kid, okay, hold on. Do you want me to listen or do you want my advice? And what I realize is when I do this with my kids, so my oldest is 20, like I said, my daughter's 19, my little one's 10. I even do it with my 10-year-old sometimes. When I say, they start talking about something and they show me something and I say, do you want me to listen? Or do you want my advice? Most of the time they'll say, I just want you to listen. And what happens is because I shut up and I listen and I didn't interrupt and try to fix it, most of the time, I'm thinking like 99% of the time, 5 minutes later or within an hour,
Yeah.
they will come back and go, okay, so what do you think?
Yeah.
Because all they wanted was my respect. They wanted to get it out. They wanted me to listen. And they want my advice. They're seeking it because I was able to shut up. So that formula works really well.
Yeah.
Really well.
The shutting up is the hard part for all
Oh,
moms.
it's so hard. I mean, my lips are bleeding. I'm sweating. It's very hard.
Yes.
Very hard.
And it's so funny because as my son gets older, so I broke my leg 3 weeks ago, and I have to wear like a sock underneath this dumb boot. So last Wednesday, for days, I sent my laundry to the basement. I was like, I need socks. Can somebody bring us socks? So finally by Wednesday, 3 days ago, I go, I need a sock. Can you please go down and get me a sock? He's in the hallway. He's got his backpack on. He's getting ready to go to work. He goes, I am so busy the next 2 days. I can get you a sock on Friday. I go, it's Wednesday. He goes, listen, you have food, you have shelter. You don't need a sock. Okay. So just be patient. I go, do you know you can't do this? You're 24. You could have a kid and you can't be like, listen, I know you're hungry, a little busy. I'll feed you Friday. Like, this is not a thing. So it's just very funny. Like, I feel like, we're like moms of older ages and, we are learning when we should listen, when we should talk. But you look back at kids in their 20s, you're like, you got a lot to learn if you think waiting 2 days for a pair of socks for the lady with a broken leg is a good idea. But it is. I mean, we're just all about, teaching myself how to communicate better, but also teaching my kids. I'm like, the chances of you having a child with anxiety and depression are high. There are very high rates of this being passed on genetically. So it's really important that not only do you learn your own brain, but you learn it well enough that when you have a child or you see another child, that you are able to understand, what that's like. So it's been a great learning lesson in communication. And I love that you're able to talk about it and bring humor to it. I read your first book, so I'm definitely going to read your second book. I'm in the process of trying to write a book myself. It's so hard, Kristina. It's
awful. This is the best. It's awful. I mean, I don't like the writing process. This is the best advice I got when I started writing my first book.
Okay, tell me.
Just decide that the first draft is supposed to suck. Like, it has to suck. Like, if it doesn't suck, you did something wrong. Okay. Because I'm sure you're like me. We overthink it. I don't like the way I worded this. And then you're never going to get everything out. So I just decided the first draft is, if it's any good, I failed. Like, it has to suck. And that really helped me.
Almost done then.
Perfect. You're nailing it.
Nailed it. My computer's about to go dead. Hold on 1 second. I got to step away. Hold on. Let me get my charger. That is so funny.
I do want to say, while you're getting your stuff, go get a coffee, run to Starbucks, whatever's happening right now. I do want to say, there are so many families that have kids who are struggling, and I am begging you all, please take really good care of yourself during this time, because what we tend to do is, when life is already hard and life throws all this extra stuff at us, our kids are struggling, depression, anxiety, ADHD, whatever. We tend to then make life even heavier by beating ourselves up. Oh, well, I feel guilty and I'm inadequate. And why isn't this happening with other families? And this therapy worked for another family and doesn't work we just beat ourselves up. And I realized during the whole process of trying to support my son, the only thing I actually had control over is how I treat myself throughout the process. That is it. That's the only control I had. Yeah. And I came up with a rule for sorry, I'm losing my earphone. I came up with a rule for myself during that time, that the harder the day, the kinder I had to be to myself. So if I saw like, oh, he's really struggling, or he's, his depression's really showing up as anger, or, oh my goodness, my other kids, whatever. I was like, okay, you got to really up the kindness towards it. You do not get to feel guilty. You do not get to beat yourself up. You got to forgive every little mistake you make. And it really helped. So I think we humans we make life harder by being really cruel to ourselves. Yeah. And life is going to be hard as it is. Like, don't add to it by being unkind to yourself. It's torture.
Yeah. And I think it's, I think my big thing about talking about it with Brooke, I had a IEP meeting for her. It went horribly wrong. I couldn't even drive home. I ended up in a CVS parking lot, hysterically crying, and it went viral. And I remember after that video came out, I got thousands of notes, just like you're saying about people coming up with a story. And there were so many people, Christina, that my kids were at a small school, like from 1st grade to 8th grade. So it was a really lovely community. And there were a lot of families that we knew really well. And in that entire time, none of them ever spoke about any of the problems their kids were having. And why would they? And it wasn't until that video came out at CVS and Me Hysterical that so many of them reached out and were like, my daughter struggles with the same thing. We went through this. This was helpful. And there was something about the IEP process in particular, when you're talking about learning disabilities, that's so closed door.
Yeah.
The school districts try to keep it so that they don't know what services you're getting, because then you're going to ask for them. There's just a lot of things that people don't talk about, even with learning issues. And I just remember like loving the fact that people wrote to me to connect with me and to help. But part of me was like, why weren't you talking about this before? It would have been so helpful during this process to not feel so alone, like that whole thing. So
yeah,
it's great. I think it's great what you're doing. And I love that you're touring. If you get a chance to go see Christina's show live, she'll be in Pittsburgh tonight, right?
Yep. Philadelphia tomorrow, and then Boston, Minneapolis, and then Charlotte in July.
Awesome. So make sure you go check out the live show and get some laughs, get some community. I think that's the biggest part. I think both of us have kind of learned, being able to put our stories out there, and all of you being willing to listen to them and hopefully have it touch some part of your life is just so valuable. So thank you so much for joining us today. And I wish you all the best. I'll be getting so what's the name of the book? Hold that book up again so everybody
I can fix this. And other lies I told myself while parenting my struggling child. And again, the last chapter is written by my son. I actually got a message recently from somebody whose daughter's been struggling and she just has not opened up. And they found, I could cry right now. They found her reading my son's chapter. And after that, she opened up and she had this beautiful conversation with her parents about her struggle. So the whole point of this book is just to freaking end that stupid shame surrounding it. Like you said, people are not talking about stuff that's happening with their families because they're embarrassed or they're worried they're going to be judged. And that is the one thing I live to see the day, because people keep saying, oh my gosh, you're so brave. And your son is so brave to put this out there, because we did not hold back. And I live to see the day when it's not brave to talk about human struggles. It should not be brave. It's not brave if I say I have a thyroid disease. Let's make mental health and learning disability, whatever it is, let's make it not brave. Let's just make it human so that we can all talk about it and be open about it.
Yeah, I agree. And I remember during that time trying to get psychiatric help through our insurance company was so horrific. And I spent days and weeks trying to get help for my daughter and just being so frustrated. And I think that's the other piece of it is I think that there's a lot of people that can't get help who want help. And I think it's so horrible that the way that our health system is set up. So yeah, that's something else that we all need to be talking about.
It has to change. Something has to change. Yeah.
I agree. So thank you again, Christina. This was such a pleasure. And you have a great way of bringing humor and just a great sense of community to hard topics. So thanks from all of us for doing that, and look forward to the book.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. We'll see you.
All right. Bye.
Oh my gosh, she's so awesome. Oh goodness. I know. How much do we owe you both? This was so therapeutic. Yes, I love Christina. I love what she speaks about, her authenticity. And if you've watched her videos for years, you know that she's just super down to earth. I think that's why she connects with so many people. So it was great. So thanks to sexy producer Michelle for lining it up. Thanks to Christina for making time to talk about it. I hope you get a chance to check out her website, find out when she's near you, go get the book, support any way you can. I feel like, her and myself, her last name is Kuzmic. I think there's so many of us that kind of live in this weird internet space and do our best to kind of share our stories and bring some joy. And so any way that you can support that is just so appreciated from myself, and I'm sure from Christina as well. So that's it, everybody. An emotional day today, but hopefully it touched your heart in some way. And so next week we have Diane Forrest on. And so we'll tell you more about that coming up. Tomorrow is Spanish Day. It's just very different vibe. A Spanish vibe, and not like Duolingo level 4 Spanish vibe. Keep that in mind. So it'll be entertaining for sure. So that's it, everybody. Like Judy from Saskatoon, Good Time Andrews say, do something nice for yourself and others. Thanks for watching as always, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow morning. So have a great day and a blessed day. Have a good one. Bye.
Hey guys, if you enjoyed today's morning show, make sure to follow us for more One Funny Mother content.
Okay, all right. Morse code is tapping.
And check out OneFunnyMotherStore.com for great new inappropriate swag. And for more exclusive content, consider becoming a supporter.
She got a bad leg.
Thanks again, and we'll see you tomorrow on One Funny